Good morning, colleagues. The Committee of the Whole is called to order, but we will stay on recess until we have a quorum. Don't worry, Vice Chair. I will announce everybody. We'll start with the author of the Bill 120, Senator Amanda Shelton. Thank you for being here. Senator Jesse Lujan, Senator Barnett, Senator Fisher, and my Vice Chair, Senator Tello Taitigui. We will stay on recess. The Committee of the Whole is called to order. Materials for the Committee of the Whole are in the shared session Google Drive folder labeled Committee of the Whole Bill number 120-37 COR. Proposed amendment must be submitted in writing to the clerk via email session drive at guamlegislature.org. Amendments not in writing will be called out of order. Rules of engagements. My colleagues, we normally have 3 rounds for discussion, but we may only have 1 round for discussion, then 1 round for amendments and comments. But we'll measure it after the first round. Each round will consist of 5 minutes for questions, not including responses. Time to speak may not be used from more than 1 member to another. A member who used that member's time on a question used all that member's time on that question and may not later speak, even if all the time used was not used. After completion of the rounds of questions, panelists will be excused, and the final round will be for amendments or comments. Questions shall be confined to the substance or nature of Bill 120. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will be called out of order and will result in removal from the hall. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum will be restricted from participating and will be escorted from the room. After we complete the discussion of the bill, I will allow the sponsors to close, and I will entertain a motion for the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, followed by a motion to rise from the Committee of the Whole, at which time I will report out the bill as recommended by the Committee of the Whole. Thank you. At this time, I'd ask the author of Bill 120-37 COR to make her opening statement, and then we will proceed to swearing in the panel and introducing them after her opening. Senator Amanda?
Sidus Masi, Mr. Chair, Hafaday to our panel and to our colleagues. Thank you for coming down this morning. Bill number 120-37 COR as amended is an act to amend Section 10113 of Article 1, Chapter 10, Title 22, Guam Code Annotated, relative to strengthening workforce development by extending the sunset provision of the Guam Registered Apprenticeship Program for an additional 5 years. I want to thank you, Mr. Chair, for conducting the public hearing on Bill 120-37 and preparing the committee report in time for this regular session. And I want to thank our Legislative Council again for reviewing this bill and for offering the technical amendments necessary that we've included in this amended version. Established in July 2006 through Public Law 28-142, GRAP provides tax credits to companies that employ and support individuals through eligible apprenticeship programs. The GRAP law provides tax credits to eligible businesses equal to 50% of the qualified training costs paid or incurred by these businesses. Covered expenses include direct wages of apprentices, direct fringe benefits such as medical and dental insurance, journeyman's wages, instructor cost, training cost, and personal protective equipment. According to the Guam Department of Labor, since its inception in 2006, GRAP has benefited thousands of apprentices who are now working in career fields that have supported Guam's economic growth. Since 2009, GRAP has provided $52.7 million in tax credit incentives to dozens of businesses that employ apprentices. In the last 4 years alone, the program has provided $17 million in tax credits to employers. The Guam Department of Labor works with more than 15 employers and over 250 apprentices every year. And according to the agency, that number is projected to double in the next 5 years as the construction industry booms and more funding becomes available from the Manpower Development Fund to support apprenticeship programs. Mr. Chair, today and in the face of unprecedented military expansion and the difficult reality families across the island continue to face, the median price of a single-family home is at $415,000 as of the third quarter of 2023. The interest rate on a 30-year mortgage remains above 7% as of mid-November. Guam continues to rely heavily on foreign skilled construction labor, with the number of H-2B visa workers on Guam surpassing the 5,000 worker mark as of October 2023. Bill 120-37 could not come at a more critical time for Guam. This legislation is necessary in our broader work to support companies across our island who are helping our moms and dads, our aunts and uncles, to develop and strengthen their skills as electricians, plumbers, carpenters, those who build our homes. Bill 120-37 also helps address other important occupations like heating, ventilation, and air conditioning technicians, line workers, and telecommunications technicians, those who are maintaining our homes. Mr. Chair, and in line with Public Law 35-39, which extended the sunset provision of GRAP from 2019 to 2024, Bill 120-37, if approved, will authorize this important workforce development program for another 5-year period through 2029. GRAP is an effective means by which to keep jobs and people from leaving the island. It is an example of how what was once an innovative program for dealing with the loss of skilled jobs has become a crucial part of the economic toolkit that we rely on to promote the development of new skills to fill new jobs. Mr. Chair, I thank you for the time today, and I look forward to the discussion with our panel and our colleagues in this committee of the whole. Sutuas Masi.
Thank you, Senator Shelton. At this time, I'd like to ask the Sergeant at Arms to swear in the panel, and I ask the panel to please rise.
Please raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, do you all affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Mr. Chair, you're under oath. You may proceed.
Thank you, Sergeant at Arms. And now to ask the panel to please introduce yourself. We'll begin with you, ma'am, at the end. Turn on the mic, please. Press the mic.
Hafaday, can you hear me? My name is Phyllis Stepasnia, and I am the program coordinator that oversees the State Apprenticeship Agency on Guam with the Guam Department of Labor.
Hi, I'm Navis Sablan. I am the management analyst that processes the GRAP tax credits with Department of Labor.
My name is Dave Delasola. I'm the director for the Department of Labor. Thank you.
Llewellyn Terlahi, Chief Fiscal Analyst of Office of Finance and Budget.
Jerome Uggan, Department of Revenue and Taxation, Taxpayer Services Division Administrator.
Hafide, good morning. Mel Mendiola from the Guam Economic Development Authority, Administrator CEO.
Thank you, panel, for introducing yourself. We'll begin with Senator Titagui. We'll begin with you, and then we'll go around and we'll see where we'll end. Thank you. Senator Titagui.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning. And good morning to the panel. Thank you so much for taking time out to be here and provide us information. Mr. Delasola, the program is under what part of the Department of Labor? What section? Who oversees the program in your office?
Apprenticeship, and Phyllis is the one that oversees. We're a state apprentice office.
Okay. Do you receive any federal funding other than what you get from the general fund or you get from the H2?
Yes, we do. We have a federal state apprentice expansion grant that's about $265,000, I believe.
Okay. And how many people are in this department that oversee this department?
There are presently 2, with the third person that will be coming on next month.
And this third person will be a position that's open for Would it be a competitive position? Is it going through the process, or
No, since-
classified or unclassified?
It's going to be unclassified since it's a grant and
Okay.
it's a yearly grant. That hopefully, once we show good work, that hopefully will get extended, of course, every
Okay.
year.
Do you have anyone that oversees like data statistics or information on, all the programs that you do in this certain department that would give us, more information? Are these individuals, trained on Guam, and then we're finding out a lot of them are leaving island after they get trained, or once they work 1 year with a company, they realize that if they go off island with the skill set that Guam has just taught them or provided them, they leave island? Do you have solid data on that, or do you guys collect that information on?
We collect the information as far as how many apprentices every year and how many are coming in and how much money is being utilized. As far as retention, it would be anecdotal because there's no mechanisms in place to track people's coming and going on the island. But I will say that based on my anecdotal and working with the department for almost 20 years over the last, that this program I feel is probably the best program I've ever seen. And
But you don't have any data or statistics on the retention or those who go
as I
into
said,
the workforce?
there is no data, but I
Okay.
can only tell you based on the talks that I had with the companies, the chamber, SHRM, Hotel and Restaurant Association, all the various businesses, that apprentices is probably has the best retention rate of any regular employee.
But
In fact,
Dave-
it's federally recognized that a apprentice has a 40% better retention rate than a regular employee that you hire, because you invest in that person and you guide them and work with them, and they're usually appreciative to the point where they stay with the company. And that is a nationally recognized number, and one of the reasons why apprentice works so well here.
I believe it was at 3, it kept going. Sorry, we have a timer, and they were clocking while you were talking, so they're just going to readjust the timer right now. Like I said, one of the issues that we have on this island, and we're seeing more and more of, is, the exodus of our people. And it seems that we were spending all this money, even federal money, regardless, it's money that can be, stayed on Guam, and it's being used just to train people to leave off island for better opportunities. And not to have the data, to show how well this is really working. Word of mouth is one thing, right, Dave? But I think, a lot of us want to look at the data to see exactly, how well this is doing, not by word of mouth, but by clear-cut data, numbers that tell us how it's working. So you have 3 individuals working in this department, and none of them are doing any research on collecting statistics and data and going actually to these companies who, of course they love this. Of course the companies are going to say this is such a great deal because they get 50% off of hiring an individual. 50% off the pay that they would have to pay because they get a tax credit. This is substantial, the amount of money that we're forking out every year, and we've got to justify it. It says here in the fiscal note, as stated in the legislative findings and intent, the GRAP has provided approximately $43 million in tax credits. $43 million in tax credit in the last 13, with an average annual credit of $3.3 million a year. The Bureau notes that tax credits may total to $16,538,000 in non-generated revenue over the additional 15 years. That's a good return. However, like anything, if you have the money, then it's great, but there are a lot of other, issues, and if we're just using money like this to train individuals to go off island, to get better pay, It's almost defeating the purpose. So my concern is if there's anything in this program that would require, like we did with the University of Guam, somebody going to getting a degree in teaching, and their tuition is paid for but they also give back to the government by being in the workforce, staying on Guam for 4 years in exchange. Plus they get paid, something like that. And I'm just seeing such a huge exodus on this island. I mean, it could be anything, it doesn't necessarily have to be money. Maybe it's because public safety or health reasons. But the data will show. And I'm hoping that you have 3 individuals working in your office right now, that one of them can at least collect it, number one, and look at retention to give us true figures. My time is almost up. I thank you for your hard work. And I've worked, I had an opportunity to be at Department of Labor with the Women's Bureau and see the great job that Department of Labor is doing over there. And I know that you guys are very short-handed too, but data is so key to making decisions that justify the money that we give out. So I hope you have somebody in place to do that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Diary. Senator Fisher, do you have any questions? None. Senator Lujan, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No questions, actually just comments. This is deja vu, looking at this bill, because 17 years ago, I chaired the Committee on Oversight of Department of Labor, and this bill actually, Public Law 28-142, was authored back then by Senator Eddie Calvo. And that was Bill, I think, 261-28, back in the 28th Guam Legislature. And I tell you, it's a program, again, you got 17 years later, and just as the director attested, that it's worked. It has been working. Actually, as the vice chair of the Committee on Maritime as well, about a month ago, we were just down at the port and talking to Joe Cruz from Cabas Marine about the folks, the students that are down there, and the amount of work and the training that they go through, and the quality of workers that they produce. So I'm in full support of this bill. Again, we may need to enhance even further the bill down the line here, because again, we're in the midst of a buildup. I understand as well that there's going to be a bigger buildup in the port because of this military buildup. So you're going to be seeing more companies looking for folks. And what better way, again, to get our workforce than to train them here? I mean, we're bringing in a lot of H2 workers, but to be able to have locally trained folks as well. And likewise, folks not only in training them for a particular workforce, but people who are changing careers. So, again, I'm in full support. The tax credits given to the businesses in regards to of course, their interns working with them. I tell you, it's just what they produce for the community just outweighs basically the tax credits that the companies get. And again, the tax revenue that these employees, because they're high paid, they're higher paid. I mean, there are other companies that utilize as well, maybe not as high paid as the other bigger companies that require more knowledge and skill. But, Mr. Chairman, again, I got nothing but praise for the program and endorsement for the program. And again, kudos to the Department of Labor. Again, 17 years later, and it's still going strong. And kudos to you guys back then, now, and for the folks back then, because it was under, I think, Maria Connolly, I think, at the time, right? Yeah, yeah. And I got to say that think that was the last time we were a majority. 28th and 29th, yeah. But again, a program I fully endorse, Mr. Chairman, but thank you very much.
Thank you. And just to add a little bit, tomorrow I'm going to Cabris Marine. They have another cohort that are stepping in. They've been excellent partners in training our local people into ship repair. And I think they're already had more than a half a dozen cohorts that they're doing, and they're one of our best partners.
Thank you. Senator Brown, do you have any questions for the panel?
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chairman. Certainly to welcome to all our department directors that are here. Yes, we did serve together. That was my last term after 6 terms, Senator, the 28th Guam Legislature. We remember that. I remember that particular bill because I think it was one of the things we looked at where it actually would encourage educational and economic opportunity, and it certainly, as I concur with Senator Lujan, good to hear that the program is still going strong after all these years. I did want to ask in terms of the demand, of course, because right now there's a lot of construction work going on the island and a lot of other related businesses that we have companies out there that need a trained and skilled workforce. What are you gauging of that? Because, I mean, we hope that we're able to retain a certain degree of those individuals to work here so that we're not having to always bring people into Guam to perform those services. And obviously, some of these things are very highly skilled areas. And once you acquire that skill set, it's a very valued commodity that they have. So what are you seeing now in terms of the interest of getting individuals out there that want to participate in the program? Are you getting enough numbers? Do you need more? And what's the success rate of individuals that are going through this program in terms of their sustainability after they've gone through the training?
That's a good question, and I'm proud to say that we work closely with the Trades Academy. They develop a lot of the skilled construction workers, and we're getting pretty good success entrenched with the construction companies, knowing that the fact that there's no way we're going to get enough apprentices to build everything that they're going to build. But what we're really gearing towards is a local workforce that can help maintain and keep up the facilities that are built once they are done and everybody leaves. Mm-hmm. And that's something that will always be a challenge and something that we will always work harder and harder towards. Like I said, there's so many different industries, like with the ship repair. That whole industry kind of just came up and is growing rapidly. And they know that there isn't a local or a off-island force to come in. So they've taken that mantle of training local people who wouldn't normally qualify and training them up to become our future ship repair facilities. And we look forward to that. So we are continuing to expand. One of the things I like to share is this is a chart, if you haven't seen, of the apprentices. This is when we first came in, and then 1 year that I was in, apprentices spiked up. We reached the highest we've ever achieved in 2020. Then of course COVID hit, and then now we're backtracking back up again. So you have my commitment to get out the word and push apprentice. The GRAP program is such an essential piece of this, is the essential piece to getting this done. And we'll always be challenged with construction because working outside in the hot sun. But we are learning that a lot of our local people are leaning more towards the electrical, HVAC, the little higher paying, the indoor typically type of jobs. They've been leaning more towards those, which is, I guess, smarter. And those, and we also know that there's a lot of our FSN communities that are growing from the bottom up. So we'll continue to aggressively try to work with them and get them up.
You know, Cabris has been noted for their apprentice program and really taking that initiative to expand. And I'm hearing also that the military is actually looking at rebuilding and reoperating SRF. Do you hear anything with regards to that, a potential of training programs? Because the military actually was very successful with their apprenticeship programs. I mean, we lost a lot of skill set when SRF closed down because, I mean, they trained in-house. They groomed their people. I know my dad for many years was a trainer down there at SRF.
Yeah, that whole thing is being built really rapidly. And in fact, I believe there's military are working very closely with Cabers and the ship repair shipyard. So there are several companies that are now rebuilding the workforce as the work is starting to increase. So hopefully we can keep up with the demands. And of course, the military has a lot of plans that I've been hearing noise about.
Well, and we look forward to hearing more about that because they were very well-paying jobs, and you know, it was a loss to us. There was a lot of our young people that were well-trained that left Guam to continue their careers at Pearl Harbor and other places. I mean, Nito Blas, who was one of my dad's employees, who has now come back to actually help rebuild and revive SRF now all these years later. So we look forward to that because that will really give a great opportunity to a lot of our young people that they can get trained, get the skill set, and there are going to be a lot of happy parents and grandparents to know that their kids could actually make a very good living and stay home, which I know a lot of our elderly really wish, you know, they could have more of their children and grandchildren here, but they left because they were looking for better opportunities. So I'm glad to hear that. And I'm assuming from the financial end, there isn't a negative impact on putting this money aside for this program. Do you guys on your end have any feedback with regards to finances?
Senator, with regard to your question on the impact of the finances, Senator Taitigui, when she authored the bill concerning putting a cap on tax credits, the coverage that we looked at was the rainy day fund, and this one has provided $43 million over the course of 13 years, as articulated in the bill, which we don't believe has a significant. It doesn't impact significantly the overall, nor does it impact the portfolio of tax credits being authorized through multiple programs, such as the qualifying certificate, as well as the regular tax credit program for things such as sports facilities.
I appreciate that, Ms. Mendillo. Thank you for the update. You know, this is one of the things we look at that it's actually a really good win-win situation all around. I think the opportunity to provide individuals that may not think they have the skill set to get trained and then give them a job opportunity that's waiting, and employers that definitely want to have the, you know, trained, skilled workforce. There's a plus all around, and you know, it's good to hear reminder from Senator Jesse the origins of this particular legislation, and then also just a continuation now all these years later that it's a success story. And trust me, we're always happy to hear, because everything in Gov Guam isn't always a success story, but this particular program and its continued expansion, and like I said, just have a more trained, skilled workforce that we can keep home. I think ultimately that's what we'd all like to see. So thank you very much for your time, and happy holidays to all of you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Madam Vice Speaker, do you have any comments or questions?
Yes, Situa Smasi, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to comment and ask a couple of questions. I thank the panel members for being here, and hope you guys have a blessed holidays coming up. You know, as I was sharing with my colleague, the legislative secretary, who was the author of this legislation, the importance of keeping successful programs alive and looking at extensions to see what's good for Guam, right, on a win-win situation. I said, what better way than to take something that is successful and continue to implement and give the government, Department of Labor, the tools it needs to bring and train and afford the opportunity of our residents and our workforce, the opportunity to train here, but also live here and be with families. And I know, hearing from the retiring two senators and agreeing with them, I could say ditto, 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 and even working the history. I think that this important, this legislation is key to moving the success of the training for our residents forward. My question to Department of Labor, Dave, is Mr. Dave, what occupations, if any, have been added to the list of approved jobs that are eligible for the GRAP since the last extension was approved? And I know there was a chart that was shown earlier, but is
With GRAP, unfortunately, the list is extensive.
Okay.
We've had here's the list of 38 different companies that participate, that have participated or are participating in GRAP. And some of these positions go all the way down to a security, all the way up to customer service reps and various numbers of different types of positions. I don't know if I have anything new. Do you have anything?
so maybe Dave,
there's over 2,000 job occupations that are apprenticeable. And we go into each individual business that is looking to be a new GRAP member and look at their jobs that they have, and we take those and customize a apprenticeship program for each of those positions. So you can see how voluminous the number of jobs that can be just in one company
yeah,
alone.
so that's why my next question was going to be, can you share for the listening audience how new occupations are added to the list of eligible careers, and is there any prerequisites that need to be done? And because I think that as we look at companies that are here and want to engage in the program, what do they need to do?
So, and that's a great question, and a lot of businesses don't understand that when they come to us and Phyllis and our apprentice is a state apprentice office, we can design an apprenticeship program, custom. So if we go to a car dealership or to one of the IT companies, we can look at those individuals and customize a apprentice program that's geared towards that company. So one company's customer service rep versus another company's service rep is entirely different. When we designed one for duty free, theirs was entirely different. And so we're able to do that. And we're one of the, in this whole Pacific area, being a state apprentice office.
Thank you. I think I'll address this next question to both Gita and to you, Mr. Dave. Have there been any projections on the economic benefits and expected participation if the program is extended?
Thank you for that question, ma'am, Madam Vice Speaker. No, there have not been any projections done by Gita. However, with regard to the governor's economic diversification initiatives, including additive manufacturing, they all fit into these existing apprenticeship programs quite well. So we do see there being a great benefit to continuing the program.
And I'd like to extend that this program is going to take off. We are also looking at getting some of the BEAD money for apprenticeship programs, and even looking at maybe targeting some of the schools in the high schools and bringing up some of the kids who aren't going to take a education career path like college, and trying to move them into apprenticeable positions in the IT fields now that we got like $150 million in BEAD money. And so that's just one of many different things that we're projecting, and we have already made more than half of our goal this year, and we've only been a couple months into it.
That's really great. So my last question to the panel here, Mr. Chair, if I may, is this is a program we've extended several times over, and we've talked about that. Do you have any thoughts on whether this body, this August body, should continue permanizing this partnership program? What are your thoughts on that? I know that this is an extension for 5 years, and I applaud the author's intent, but if this program is really great, what about permanizing it?
You wouldn't get any problems with me. I think this program is the best program that was introduced. I was the director at AHRD with Maria Connolly when this was brought on. So I was around when this thing came about, and like I said, I think this is one of the best programs in existence of training our unskilled workforce into career opportunities, giving them a hand up instead of a handout.
That's right. Gita?
Several months ago, ma'am, the Guam Economic Development Authority did a roundtable with our oversight, Senator Kanata, concerning what our competitor states were doing with regard to tax incentive programs. And one of the primary things that emerged were all competitive states, all of our competitors, meaning states that were also trying to attract a top-notch workforce, were doing some sort of workforce development tax incentive type of program. And so Gita is in favor of not only continuing this program, but if you, I certainly think that there's something to be said about the comments earlier by Senator Taitagui. We need to be able to capture and quantify the positive impact, because we all know, I think that we can all, acknowledge that there is a tremendous positive impact from this program. But I think if this was a permanent program, this is something that we could incorporate into our annual assessments as far as what the positive impact of this program is for its lifetime. But either way, 5 years is fine. Making the program permanent is fine, but it seems like just yesterday that I was here also encouraging that we extend GRAP. So it's like it goes by so fast, and so I don't know, 10 years, maybe split the difference, 10, 15 years would be cool.
Thank you very much, Mel. And Mr. Chair, with that being said, again, I want to thank the author for making me a part of the co-sponsorship, but as you can hear from the panel with their presentation here this morning, is when you have a win-win situation for the government and for the community, what better way than to look at putting a permanent structure in place. And I'm hoping that the good author could, instead of having to do a new bill, is maybe make that consideration so that we have that opportunity. I did ask about the benefits and the compiled data, and maybe that's something we can also look at, because data drives everything, and with data we can maybe be afforded more opportunities for federal grants and all that, but in order to get free money, right, you need data, and that's something maybe we as a government needs to look at. So, Mr. Chair, again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask the questions. I still got a minute, but thank the good legislative secretary for letting me be a part of this sponsorship. Thank you. Senator Masi.
Thank you, Madam Vice. Senator Shelton, do you have any questions? Or okay, Senator Paris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to everybody here. I'm a big supporter of this program, and so I'm to support this bill as well. And we had many discussions, Director De La Sola, about this, and making sure that also we can build a pipeline into our civil sector. There are many agencies that have critical shortage of workers, and working with you, I want to continue that relationship and create a more robust pipeline. It's not just the shipbuilding, but it's also accountants and DRT. It's inspectors at Department of Health or Guam Environmental Protection Agency. So we're dealing with a loss of institutional knowledge as many of these employees retire, and perhaps maybe you can talk about how can we really create a stronger pipeline. I think one of the challenges too is that we're competing with higher salaries from the federal government. As soon as we train them, they go off to other places, whether it's the states or to the federal government here locally, which means that we might need to even put in more efforts to recruit more workers, or build up that workforce development. And I think one of the things that I see too when I look at the the tax credit summary reports, I think initially the idea was to build a construction workforce And that seems to be one of the weaknesses in ensuring that we're building that up through this program. And one of the things that I like what you said earlier is that, you know, we need to bring it into the school system and diversify the offerings, because I think, you know, if we just focus on one particular field, I think we can get more out of it if we can diversify it in collaboration with GCC and DOE. And yeah, I just definitely there's more work that needs to be done with this. But yeah, if you can maybe weigh in on that.
I couldn't agree more and we're getting very aggressive with the government. Tonight, I'm going to attend the first class for customs and under their apprenticeship program. There's been GPD, there's been several, I think the 7th cohort already at GPA. We've done the fire department with the paramedics. We are looking to continuously expand and hope that our different governments can do succession training using the apprenticeship program. And Public Works wasn't an apprenticeship, but we did the bus driver camps and boot camps. So we are working more aggressively with the government agencies to expand their training and programs to help with the forces that are in short demand for succession training. I agree. And if you look at just the Guam Registered Apprenticeship Program list of companies, you'll see a very diversified list from, like I said, from telecoms to security to accounting to auto, duty-free, I mean, everything. It's a whole gamut, and it is going to be expanding more. We have several already in the works that are going to be added on. So I think a lot of the commercial companies are starting to really catch on and seeing the challenges of hiring people, qualified people, is going to be there. But you can help solve that by hiring and training the people that you have and making them qualified using the apprenticeship program. And that's helped supplementing a lot of our workforce.
Yeah, thank you. Do you have any idea of how long, once they're trained, how long they stay in that company or are employed?
That's something that, you know, with Senator Taitagui and Senator Munya and Senator Brown mentioned, I think what we're going to do is try to, it can't be scientific, but we're going to go back to these companies and look at their apprentices, and we can track them through our Rapids program and how they stay on, how long they've stayed on. What we don't know is if they moved on, did they move on to a different company locally, or did they move off island? Like I've said, apprenticeship, when you invest in somebody and you skill them up from unqualified to a qualified certificate program, those people will stay with your company 40% more than you just hire somebody right off the bat. Because when you hire somebody right off the bat, somebody offers them a couple dollars more, they're more willing to jump. Whereas apprentices are more appreciative of the investment that that company made. And that's what's so strong about the apprenticeship program, that you build a loyal workforce.
Is it possible to require a certain amount of service by being part of this program, or is that already in place?
That's not in place, and that's something that we were kind of just kicking around, how that could work. I don't know if there's a one-size-fit-all these companies, but you know, if this gets passed in 5 years, that's certainly in the next 5 years how we can always go back and tweak and figure out and adjust the program to fit the new way things are moving towards. And that's certainly a good idea to look at. But let's talk to the businesses. We'll talk to the business and see, do they truly have that kind of problem?
Okay. Yeah, so like my big vision, right, for this GRAP program is to include the pre-apprenticeships in the high schools, possibly even middle schools, right? And the idea is that once they graduate, they can get a job, right? They have a job waiting for them.
That's what we're working towards.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the big vision, and I hope that we can get that done.
I hope so too, Senator.
All right, I think that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Burris. Madam Speaker, do you have any questions for the panel?
Yes, thank you. I guess if I could just follow up, Mr. De La Sola, about how are you working on that establishing in the high schools this program, or tracking them?
One of the persons who we've brought on is Dr. Juan Flores. He's working with the schools and working with the principals, the counselors, and trying to, we're first offering a year-round program for some of the juniors and seniors, and we're trying to develop. It's always challenging when you're working with schools and somebody that I don't have control over. I like to be controlling my own destiny, but it's a good program. I think it's just something that we need to work hard and work in. We're starting out in the high schools, so we're in the infancy stages. We're starting to talk and meet and design something that our kids from juniors and seniors can start taking trade-type courses instead of just all academic courses, so that when they graduate, we're working together with GCC on this too, that they can just move right into a apprentice track and go into a career field. Right. So that's something that we are going to get we are aggressively moving towards.
Right. Yeah, so I was going to ask, is that different or the same as GCC? So you're saying it's
we're working together in parallel.
Okay. I just want to clarify, so I thought the Vice Speaker asked an excellent question. That was what I wanted to know also is, first of all, what was the last, when was the last extension made? Melanie, Director, you said you were just here requesting for an extension?
Yes, ma'am, I believe it was 2019.
Okay, 2019 to 2024.
Yes.
What, and the Vice Speaker had asked what jobs, different jobs, did you see in that period from 2019 to 2024?
Oh, there was a big addition of jobs. I've been very aggressive in going out. A lot of the automotives, a lot of the...
Sorry, but we have no data in our committee report. I don't see any of that. So you keep reading from a list, and we don't have that.
You can see that all on our website.
So those are the eligible positions, right? But the ones that we've actually done on Guam, are those also listed there?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
It's all on our website.
All right. Then we have to go there to look at it. I guess, can you read it to us? Or what I really want to know is...
A data-filled website with the GRAP program, with listing of all the companies, what they do, how much they get in tax credits, broken down, and individuals.
Because you said 38 companies are current, but the committee report says 15 companies?
Well, I said 38 have participated in GRAP since the inception.
Since 2006?
Yeah. Some have stopped, some are coming back. They have to go through a pretty intensive vetting process to get back in, and that's what Phyllis is working on now. We have about 3 companies now that are currently being vetted out, so it's not a quick and easy thing to start getting involved in the tax program.
All right, so I saw in the statute that the statute encourages certain, I don't know if you call them priorities, but it encourages certain that the director of GITA, I think, is going to look at, what do they call it? Emphasize occupations in these different fields. This was probably since 2006, but the list at that time was Chamorro cultural practices, human resources development, office technology, medical coding and billing, information technology, website coding and development, finance and accounting, cosmetology, automotive, engineering, agriculture and aquaculture, as well as industrial work, construction, and technical trades. I wanted to know, because we had had this discussion regarding the MDF funds, I think, with GCC, as to their priorities and what programs they're pushing, and we were looking at healthcare at that time. How many employers would you say you have as apprenticeship in healthcare professions?
There is healthcare in this, but and that's something that we are looking to even approach even more. But the companies have to come to us, and I'm going out more towards them. But there are healthcare, and remember the MDF.
What types of healthcare?
Which ones are the healthcare? Nursing assistant from Westpac, and you also, this is just GRAP. MDF is different from GRAP.
Yes.
So that money goes to GCC
Right.
for their apprentice programs and trainings. And also, a lot of times, for the schooling that is required through GRAP, the additional schooling that is required, that can be made available for the apprentice free of charge using MDF dollars. So there's a marriage between the two and a close partnership. And that's certainly something we have Mariana's training provider as one of our service providers that does training in healthcare that we utilize also. So that is certainly something that I wish the healthcare professionals would come more to us and take advantage of. And I have approached several, I don't want to mention them until they actually step in, companies, clinics, and things like that to take advantage of the GRAP for their personnel and their frontliners and things like that. And they've been very interested in something.
Right. Well, I'm interested, how are we prioritizing who we're going to seek, right? Or we know already where we have shortages. I mean, maybe it's everywhere, but still, for healthcare, how do you decide which fields you want to go? If they're not coming to you, how do we grow that healthcare capacity? Maybe Gita can also chime in on this, but I feel like we have to have a concerted effort among the different agencies to do that, to go and, I know there's a CNA program, but what other health capacity are we?
A lot of those require schooling and degrees. They're not always apprenticeable. Some of those professional healthcare positions. So it's the lower level positions that are. So we have programs like the CNA, registered nurses with the UOG, that we assist with when they graduate, take the test. We give the tutoring classes, this and that, so that they help them become registered nurses, and we provide that. So there's a little bit of mix that you can't, apprentice is for certain occupations. So as she was saying, apprentice is employer driven. So when the employers come to us, they ask us, these are the positions that we need. But yes, I agree with you. We need to try to get those lower level health field positions, and that's something that would be apprenticeable. But as far as the healthcare workers, and a lot of those have to go through schooling.
Okay, and so the list of government agencies that you discussed earlier that had utilized this apprenticeship program, I remember GPD doing it, and GPA, of course, they advertise when they have their graduates, but are they all currently active, or they come in and they leave and then you have to work with them again? You had said customs, paramedics, GFD, they're still active?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. The fiscal note said, I can't remember the amount per year, 6 million, 43 million over the course of since 2006. But you said this program is going to ramp up, and I'm wondering if their estimate, or what is the estimate then for the impacts for the year? Do you think, I don't know, Melanie, do you think that it's too low? Or do you think it's going to be a greater impact in the upcoming year than it has been in the past?
Well, the good thing about thank you for that question, ma'am. The good thing about an apprenticeship type program is people graduate the program and then new people come in. And so it's a program that you don't have the same people Unlike other types of, if we were to compare it to, say, a public assistance program where people remain on SNAP for 20, 30 years, this one you're meant to be in and out. And so really what it's about is the net impact of the net overall growth of the program. One thing I do know is that the demand of the program is very high, but the availability of curriculum and instruction at the University of Guam and GCC, it's also the ability to deliver an effective apprenticeship program is a function of many things, a demand of an employer, but also the ability for GCC, UOG, or any other educational partner to deliver an apprenticeship program. So the question you had asked earlier about government agencies, I don't believe they're within GRAP because government agencies don't pay BPT. And then for the governor, when the governor funded medical billing and coding under ARP, a lot of those individuals went to work at hospitals. Hospitals also aren't GRAP participants because they don't pay BPT. And so it really becomes a function of where these individuals that are participating in apprenticeship programs, whether it's covered under the Manpower Development Fund, local funding, or employer funding, where these apprentices are coming from and where their end destination is. If it's the federal government, if it's the local government, if it's an organization that doesn't pay BPT, then it doesn't impact this. Really, it's just about the organizations that are eligible for the BPT benefit, and so right now I know that that's concentrated in construction, telecommunications. It's expanded in tourism, but it is also limited by the ability for the educational partners to deliver the curriculum. So I don't see I see popularity growing, but I don't see growth being particularly explosive or anything like that.
I see. I appreciate that. So there is really no limit to it. However, we are limited by our own capacity, such as education. All right.
Like she says, in the GRAP, I think the average apprentice program is 2 years. So you have an ebb and flow, a full pipeline of people coming in and going out. So,
I know, but you had said you were going to expand it like
yes,
across more fields, and so we don't have a limit that way. We can do that technically, right? But the reality is we might not be able to. But yes, all right. Where would you focus, Melanie, Director, where do you think we should focus on, let's say, one field this upcoming year, if we could bring them in?
I think, ma'am, there's been a lot of great momentum with construction as well as ship repair. And I think you're on the money. I think we really need to focus on healthcare because we're underserved across what we found from looking at the labor statistics is that we're underserved across all across all classifications, not just doctors, not just nurses, but all the way to your medical assistants. And we've been delivering medical assistant, medical coding, medical billing. We've seen all these apprenticeship programs go through, but there just doesn't seem it's not enough. And I think the only way for us to get that done is by really empowering UOG and GCC to have the resources to hire enough instructors and deliver the courses on a regular basis so that we can graduate more people from any variety of these programs. But I think you're spot on there with healthcare being a priority on this list. I just don't know if it's, to me, I don't know if it's GRAP is the proper vehicle or the Manpower Development Fund or just straight just really something really quick to just boost this group of workers.
All right, appreciate that. And thank you to all of you for your work in this program. Very much appreciate you being here today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Barnett, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to say bananas dos to the panel. Thank you for coming out. Mr. De La Sola, it was really encouraging to hear about the apprenticeships and high schools, and I know you said that it's kind of in its infancy, and I'm sorry, I hope this is still germane, but how much is it going to take to get those programs into the middle schools? Because when I kind of research this, I know that the apprenticeships are coming younger and younger with the thought that we get these kids trained up, 2 years versus 4 years, or even in some cases 6 years, they graduate right into a great paying job that comes with a specific skill set. So is that part of your long-term plan?
Well, we first like to get the high schools in there first, and because they can go in more directly in hands-on experience. With the age, you get a lot of restrictions on what they can do and what they can't do as far as getting actual experience, and that's pretty much kind of what apprentices is all about. That's why we are targeting more on the juniors and the seniors that can actually go into the workplace, can actually learn their trade and not be so restricted as a minor, and parents and all that, all the restrictions.
Right, thank you. And I agree with the comments of the previous speakers. Support the bill. Sounds like a great program. But yeah, I guess to echo the retiring speaker, would like to see it targeted to address where we have a lot of these critical shortages, right? Like the medical coders and the billing. I mean, we just had Lillian across the hall talk about, right, that need is still great on that. And I did go on your website, and so just to commend some of these companies that participate in this program, we have companies like Atkins Kroll, Guam, DeWitt, of course GTA, who submitted testimony in support of the measure, Galiti Group, G4S, Docomo Pacific, Guam Autospot, and some of these companies have received significant tax breaks. Right? Yeah. So what can you? So for example, an apprentice at a G4S. Are we talking about a security guard?
Yes. As they become before they just hire them and throw them out there. And as you know, when there's a problem, they need to be trained. So yeah, there is a set curriculum that they have to go through in order to be a certified security or the different fields that they have involved. And so it is training their workforce to become more skilled in dealing with the different types of security situations that they have.
And obviously the GTA apprentices are dealing with like telecoms and...
Yes, as you know, when you call into their customer service, they handle 60-70% right before they even send you to a technician. So they have to be well-rounded in the types of problems that you're having and trying to resolve them before you tie up a tech. So they aren't just answering phones, they're actually solving problems, and that requires a lot of different training.
What about like a Guam Autospot? Are these apprenticeships relative to selling cars, or are they like
mechanics training cars, accounting, the whole myriad of positions that entail a auto running a dealership? That, you know, a lot of them, when they get hired, are already trained. This becomes structured and formalized so that they can become, like I said, get a certificate in those positions. And a lot of that, again, a customer service, a salesperson is trained on how that the company wants them to sell their type of cars, their philosophy, corporate culture, and everything else.
I don't want this to be a loaded question, but are there businesses who apply for a program that is everybody approved? Is there anyone who's not approved?
I think most of them, it takes several months to get approval, and it takes a lot of hurdles for them to jump over. That it is an intensive investment for a company. That it's just not something that they get overnight. In fact, I encourage them to hire a person, an accounting person, to get all the tax forms and the credits for the tracking of all the different laborers, the people that train them, the equipment. That it has to be very detailed for a Navis to come in, scrutinize it, package it before it goes to rev and tax. So this is a major investment for a company to do before they can realize the savings.
I guess what I want to ask is more about meeting the demand. So when I look at some of these the 2023 GRAP credits listed on your website, you have, for example, Amorico Equipment, $203,000, Cabris Marine, which you guys work very extensively with them, almost $2.2 million. And then going back to like an Autospot, 1.1 million, is that? accurate? Cabris Marine,
No, you said, and yeah, Cabas Marine, what was the one after that?
Autospot,
Oh, Autospot, yeah.
1.1 million. So is that like a field that we're really desperate to have people working in? When I'm just
Well,
saying, is the number of apprenticeships, is it justified?
It's what you call, it's demand-driven, employers-driven. So when they come to us, with the lack and of people that they can hire, that they come to us and we identify all the positions that they like to hire. We draft out a apprentice plan for them, and it's up to them to hire them in, and they have to follow that plan. I think automobile is a new field of companies that are coming in, so you're going to have a large, because they're bringing in a lot of new people, and then in the next couple of years, they're going to start graduating out, and that number is going to go down. So in any new burgeoning field that has to hire a lot of new people, you're going to see that number increase. But like you said, once they graduate, then they're going to be out of the GRAP program, and they're going to have qualified individuals.
I mean, let me just, for the sake of comparison, you have AK, Guam, and Morocco equipment, 200,000, and then again back to the Autospot, 1.1 million. So you're saying that the car sales,
AK and Morocco are a little bit more newer.
Okay.
They're just starting into it. Autospot was one of the first ones to step in, and even during COVID, they stepped in and they got all their ducks in a row and started moving faster. So I suspect a lot of these automobile, and I'm talking with several other automobile companies, they're going to step in and you're going to see their numbers grow.
Thank you for that, Dave. Could I ask, sir, just real quick about the displaced workers program? The Department of Labor,
Yep.
the displaced workers program. So,
They don't mind. I'm always here to answer any
right,
questions.
thank you, appreciate it. So we had a DOE oversight hearing, and they had told me that they were able to avail of some displaced workers who were sent out to the schools, but that was kind of all the information I got on it. So can you give any more information?
Well, you know, the displaced workers, and I want to announce that we are partnering with FEMA, because they're going to be getting a lot of displaced workers to help with some of their FEMA projects. So we continue to hire. We've placed them all out to the mayors and to the Parks and Recs, Public Works, a couple of the other agencies. These are all doing mitigation and cleanup work for MOAR. And we have some companies that have come to us and asking us, we will bring them into the fold as the budget allows.
Can I just ask, I don't know if I want to call it a favor, but GDOE has said that they're in need of skilled workers like electricians, plumbers, carpenters, and we have we've introduced bills that have become laws that allow them to hire retired maintenance personnel. So if you could maybe prioritize moving some of those skilled laborers, if you have any in the dislocated worker program, towards DOE to assist with getting the schools ready for the public health inspections and the like.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Barnett. Senator Duenas.
Sijus Masi, Mr. Chairman, and certainly a warm welcome to the panel. Glad to see them here today. Just a few comments and a couple of questions, Mr. Chairman. You know, in this body, of course, we grapple between our philosophies on tax, BPT, and taxes and the like, but I have no question in my mind that this is one of the greatest investments that we can ever give, is tax abatements for the development of our workforce. One of the other things I know, Dave, you subscribe to this as well, as I hear you in the media quite a bit. There's this old adage, train them and they may go away, don't train them and they might stay. So certainly this issue is so critical to having a workforce that's developed and that provides great return to our community in terms of their salaries that are taxed and the tax dollars that come in. So I personally don't look at this as a loss in tax revenue whatsoever. I look at it as one of the best investments any government can make. And I agree with Senator Barnes. I think we should just permanentize it. And if it ever became a problem for any reason, could repeal it. But I couldn't even imagine that day. Dave, I had a chance to meet, a chance encounter over lunch with Mary Okada. And she mentioned that one of the exciting things in saying, please support this bill, is that she's going to be doing with the shipyard, shipyard workers on steroids. Are you aware of that, and has that application come across your desk?
Yes, like I said, tomorrow I'm attending another cohort that is graduating into the shipyard. The ship repair is exploding. Yeah. And those are really high-paying career jobs. And the ship, Cabris Marine has made an investment in helping our unskilled people step into these fields. And we've been working very closely. They're one of our best partners. And I've talked to the workers there. They've been doing this for a couple of years now. They're very happy and enthusiastic about the career opportunities that they have there. And some have been there for already a couple of years, and they're all very happy.
Mr. Chairman, the conversation that we had was there could be, now we are maybe on the cusp of an SRF type of capability on Guam once again. And the reason is because of the geopolitical situation we find ourselves in. And with all the military prepositioning ships that support the forward deployed of the larger military ships, that activity is just incredible, because this region is for some time now going forward, more than likely, is going to continue to be a dangerous part of the world. And those vessels need to be repaired. We're not always talking about haul outs here. A lot of times we're talking about just coming in and retrofitting electronics and all kinds of, or just any of their issues with the ship. It doesn't have to be a 60, 90, 120-day repair. Sometimes it's just a week or two, but it's big money for our island. So I'm glad to hear that that ship repair folks on steroids is something that is going to come to fruition. I've been hearing a lot of GCC and UOG Trades Academy. How is the feeder of Trades Academy with regard to those companies availing of these opportunities?
Well, Trades is in partnership with GCC, so that they can avail some of the MDF dollars too. So they kind of keep their own track of people coming in, getting trained, and moving out into positions. So that's what I like about them. They don't necessarily have to come through us to get over to them. They can go straight through the Trades Academy and get trained, get placed, and get helped, and working with Mary Okada. So we work hand in hand with a lot of things, but the good thing about Trades is that they are a little bit more autonomous.
Yeah, because I'm also understanding that there's going to be a new development online. The former Trades Academy is now going to reactivate. I think that's going to be one of the larger shipyard apprentice program capabilities as well. So it's doing nothing but expanding. Yes. So the timing is right, and good on you. One other thing is, I'm hearing the high schools, how about the outreach to the charter schools? I know Guam Academy Charter School, I was down there a couple months ago, and they actually have 2 maritime, what would you call it, modules within their school. So have you made a connection there yet? Because I think it's very vital.
Not yet, but that's a good idea.
Yeah, they're just, that school
probably is easier to work with.
They're growing by leaps and bounds, and talking about, and the thing is that's a target population, because these are not kids just by chance in high school that might be thinking about it. Those kids are all really on track for career tech ed. There is some higher ed capabilities, but I wanted to put it on the record for you to target that population, because those kids are very energetic and the programs are very vibrant with regard to that. So at this time, really nothing but accolades for you guys, and continue the great work that you're doing. We appreciate it, and once again, thank you for your website. I did go there as well, and you're right, it is loaded with information, And so kudos to you. Thanks a lot, Mel, for really continuing to push this program. I mean, it's, you know, when we're on the campaign trail, usually we get these questions from UOG and the schools, what are you doing, right? I think this is one of the real bread and butter things as we expand these programs, because they're not just pie in the sky, they're actual real jobs that people go into. And if we lose them for some reason, well, then we just get new ones, right? So anyways, keep up the good work, and that's all I have at this time, Madam Chair. Jesus Masi.
Senator, Minority Leader, Senator Blas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the panel for being here. And I sat here and listened attentively because I remember I used to be the chairman for the board that oversaw this program. And, you know, I remember being in the trenches in this, and having Phyllis put me in line a lot of times and says, no, sir, you can't do that way. So I appreciate it. But, you know, and so I have to agree with several of my colleagues that this is a, you know, Mr. Del Sol, I tell you what, you've taken this program to the next level, and I truly appreciate that. Phyllis, you know, thank you for keeping on his tail. It's a better him than me on this. But, you know, in permanentizing the program, I think this is one of the bright spots that we have in our government, to be able to work and to build industry on Guam. But, you know, and I tell you what, I think I need some clarity here, because when I served as chairman, there was something that always bothered me with regard to when is it that we assist and bring on people to employ them, and when do we let the employer continue on with providing the training to move up the ladder, okay? And I guess it goes back to, the basic concept, the basic definition of what an apprentice is in relation to this program. Because we call it an apprenticeship program. And your common definition is basically training an individual to get into a field, give them the basic steps, the basic knowledge to be able to okay, and then set them free. But it appears sometimes that this program is utilized so that we can move people up the ladder instead of just being able to step on the ladder. So, your thoughts on this? I mean, what is the definition of apprenticeship when we talk about this program?
Well, I think majority of the apprentices that are going on are the ones that are stepping in the ladder, not stepping up. And any mature company like the telecoms use it both ways. The one thing about the apprentice is that we standardize the program, not the company. If you're going to put in a certain occupation, we have U.S. Department of Labor standard that we start with, and then Phyllis customizes it according to the personal company's need, but it is standardized. So they have a definitely start and an end, and what they need to accomplish in that period of time. So a majority of the apprentices that we use are the ones that are stepping onto the ladder for the first time.
Okay, and I appreciate it, because then I know that when I was part of this was, for lack of a term, I'm in the infancy of it, and there were some learning curves and stuff, and so I appreciate that. But again, that was a concern that I had. I remember.
A lot of the ones that stepped onto the ladder and have become and graduated have moved up naturally, sure, because of the training that they've received.
Yes.
And have, and a lot of them are managers and supervisors now that have been into the program, first stepped in it several years ago. So it has come in well entrenched in a lot of the companies.
And I appreciate it, because I remember bringing that concern up to of course, management at the time and said, can we look into this so that, you know, there's some fidelity with the program, you know, and I just didn't want this program with the Department of Labor to be the training division of a company. You know what I'm saying? That's not our responsibility. We'll give you people, you know, to be able to at least have the basic knowledge. You train them up to be able to do everything else. With regard to how do we capture, and as far as tax credits, how do we disperse it? What's the formula that we use in this? Because I think this whole thing is to be able to extend this period. But how is it dispersed and how is it managed? Maybe Jerome, this time, in as far as the program. How do you see, in as far as revenue tax, how this program is managed, and as far as the disbursement of the credit and the utilization of it?
Okay, so the credits are actually issued by Department of Labor through their, I believe it's 50% of the cost, as it says in the bill. But on our side, there's a form, a certification that from Department of Labor that, you know, this is the credit that they were taking, and then they take it as they file their monthly GRT returns. They take it, and there's a form, I believe it's called Form GRAP, that they actually, you know, have the amount that was issued, the amount they're taking, that type of thing. That's how we see it, and then we apply it as long as they're complete with everything, and that's how we reconcile. The taxpayer actually reconciles it also.
Okay, this is programming with regard to the tax credit. Is there a requirement that the credits have to be used up date certain, or can they extend it over to
yeah, no, there isn't exactly a deadline, and as it states here, even existing that have not been used, you know, as you extend the sunset provision does, everything gets extended according to the law.
Okay, which brings me to another question. I'm sorry, Dave, he hasn't talked for a long time. I need for him to talk now, okay? So if they've got the tax credits, okay, and it brings a good point, because this bill intends to move the date from 2024 to 2029. Is there a sunset provision on tax credits that were gained or that they received, let's say, in 2020? Can that...
Right, not in the bill. It actually says those that weren't, you know, taken as of the effective date, they are taken with the expiration date, which is, you know, the change, which would be 29.
Okay,
so
that
so
I just wanted to make sure that while we're extending this program, we're extending also the benefits of this program past that first date, not just the extension of the program. Okay, because, you know, I don't know if the paperwork, you maybe want to go back and check the paperwork and say, your tax credits are good up until a certain date.
So the tax credits are turned in after they're realized.
Sure.
So it's not like you can take it future.
Right.
So after the person's worked and that payroll has been done, they fill out the paperwork with all those, you know, through our templates, and the tax credits are given for the work that's already been paid.
Okay, and I appreciate that. It's just that I just want to make sure that, okay, that they're not losing that, and you know, Mr. Drogan says it doesn't appear that way, but appearance and application are two different things. So we can just make sure that, and if we have to, we can clean up that part of the law too. But I think my time's up, Madam Chair. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Minority Leader Senator Blas. Okay, we've exhausted our first round. We're going to go into the second round. At this time, if you don't mind, I'm going to start in the middle this time. I'm going to start with Senator Paris, if you're ready.
Yes, thank you,
Okay,
Madam Chair.
you're welcome.
Yeah, I just want to follow up the question regarding what do we prioritize in regards to GRAP, the registered apprenticeship. So I was trying to find the listing. So you, Department of Labor reaches out to the different businesses, right, according to law, and they seek what's called a demand occupation listing. When was the last time that was updated?
(2019).
Okay. And do you see a need to update it today?
Now that we're coming out of recovery and getting back into hopefully smooth sailing, that we can start going back and doing some of the housekeeping and house cleaning. As I said, right now, I've been reaching out, I've been speaking at all these different rotaries and every single place that would have me speak, touting this program and approaching businesses to utilize this program as a way to help with their unemployment inside the company and help get those positions that they're having hard time filling. So this right now, with coming out of the pandemic and COVID, we're just trying to help all businesses try to get skilled laborers hired in.
Okay, so in looking at the last 2019 demand occupation listing, I'm trying to find like mason workers. I mean, what is the other term for that? Because, you know, the idea is that, you know, we're trying to build up also our construction workforce. Have the construction industry actually put out a demand for their positions, if you recall?
Well, like I said, construction has always been very challenging for apprentices because a lot of the workers are busy working, they're outside, they got contracts, time constraints. Apprentice isn't always the easiest thing to fulfill when you're doing a federal contract. And that is something that's more, I feel, for a local company to help train some of the workers up as they are working on projects outside. Guam Trades Academy does most of the construction apprentice because it does require intensive skill training that Guam Trades provides versus on-the-job training only, and other fields in private sector businesses can provide their skilled laborers along with GCC schooling, whereas construction is entirely, and that's more intensive. That's usually a 4-year type of position.
I understand the challenges, right?
Yeah.
But should this be just already an automatic default where it's included in the demand occupation listing? Because there's a lack of it. Obviously, there's a lack of labor. So yeah, I don't see, I don't know if the correct term is masonry. What is the proper term for that type of trade in the demand occupation listing? I don't know if you know, Phyllis, is there a specific apprentice program pertaining to cement work? Because I don't see it on the listing. And so I guess that's my ask. If, as you update this list, to include areas that we know there's shortages, because, you know, if we don't have this on the list, we're basically giving ourselves that barrier. It's like a self-inflicted barrier.
Anything that's not on the list doesn't mean that we're not doing it.
Okay. But it should be on the demand occupation list.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I feel like, this GRAP program should be really tailored, not just to what's available. Obviously, that's one of the barriers, but also, what do we really need in our community? So is that one of the considerations in the GRAP program, is looking at this listing or not?
That's one of the considerations.
And is it a weighted consideration, or is it?
Well, as it stands now, anybody who's interested in GRAP, we entertain and we try to assist them, especially coming out of COVID. And construction companies have always had a priority if they wanted to avail with GRAP.
Yeah, and that reminds me, another one of the challenges, like you said, there was not a lot of appeal or recruitment. Like I recall there was one article in the paper where there was less people than what was required to enroll in one of these trades. And so, you know, I'm hoping maybe at another conversation we could talk about how to overcome those barriers. One other thing I recall is that one of the barriers to the GRAP program for businesses that really need these services, for instance, if it's a small business, right, and they don't have the administrative capacity to fill out all these forms, right? So it's a challenge for small companies to participate.
And we've addressed it as best we can by standardizing the forms. We have templates that kind of make it as easy as possible, that is almost like fill in the numbers. And that's what Navis has done. She's done an excellent job standardizing the form so that not only for us, but it makes it easier for everybody to be able to fill it out when you have one common method and one standardized, that it's easier for her to administer and then move it to Rev and Tax, and for them to also evaluate. So we've taken steps to help them out by standardizing those forms.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, is there a way to tier the GRAP program or prioritize the GRAP program? So, you know, we're going to try to fill these demand occupation apprenticeships before opening it up to, let's say, service. I see there's a lot of service apprentices, right? Yeah, I just feel like we need to target this program to really the shortages that we're experiencing. Not to say that service is not needed, but I think this is really the critical shortage.
I think the best way I can answer that right now is that, you know, any businesses that is in need of trying to hire skilled laborers and they want to avail of the GRAP program, we entertain all instead of just the demand occupations. Of course, any demand occupation that approaches us is given a priority, but as we are economically trying to rebound, we're treating everybody fairly the same that needs it and making it more employer-driven than demand-driven only.
Yeah.
But I agree, those that are in big demand are always given a priority with us.
Yeah, another conversation too. I mean, there's the employers, but there's also this idea of entrepreneurs, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, how can we tailor it to those groups that want to start their own business? Is there a way to bridge that?
That becomes more difficult because an apprentice, you got to have somebody that's going to train the workers. And if somebody's entrepreneuring, and unless that person is going to be able to train that person, they can still avail. But and that's why the best way I can answer that is that's why we offer a customized program tailored towards the employer or the entrepreneur.
Okay. What about the use of intermediaries? So like the Guam Contractors Association, you know, is that possible to utilize that group as I guess the program participant and as a bridge towards entrepreneurship?
We'd have to look into that.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
I think, well, actually, maybe another question regarding the tax credits. Just to confirm, this is for Mel. You feel confident that the cap is going to ensure that, you know, let's say there's a huge expansion of the GRAP program, the cap provided in law is sufficient to help us be fiscally sound?
Ma'am, if I may just real quick put a clarification on the previous comment that my colleague made concerning the use, or your thought about the use of an intermediary. This is something that we discussed because agriculture is an area that could utilize apprentices, but there is a farmer's exemption such that farmers don't pay BPT. So GITA did some exploration as to the transferability of the GRAP tax credit, which is not currently allowed in legislation. So if there was the idea to utilize an intermediary such as the Guam Chamber, the Women's Chamber, or anything like that, that was something that I would urge you to consider consider looking at an amendment. Relative to the cap, I would just have to double check the legislation, if the legislation is relative to the tax credits associated with the programs that GITA manages, because GRAP to us is always kind of, GRAP is not something we report on, and GRAP and as well as the tax exemptions that are given, like property tax type, like for senior citizens and things like that. And so I just have to double check the legislation to answer that question accurately.
Thank you, I really appreciate that.
Senator Paris?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Oh, you're very welcome, Senator Paris, and a very good question. I too would like to get that information. I know I introduced the legislation, and that was the intent, to follow through on to ensure that the tax credits doesn't exceed a certain amount. So that being said, Senator Amanda Shelton, nothing. Senator Vice Speaker Barnes, nothing. Senator Brown.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I wanted to ask, how do you determine the amounts of money, because you have a set amount, I'm sure annually, that you have. How do you determine how to distribute and to what limit? Is it these companies that are coming to apply? Is that the basis that you look at it, or is there an evaluation process, obviously, to make sure they have certain components in place to execute the training? But how do you determine between company A, B, C, D, E, F, and G? You know, I'm going to give you $50,000, I'm going to give you $100,000, I'm going to give you $2,000, I'm going to give you $1 million. How do you determine
well, if you
the
remember,
amount annually, for example, each company would get, for example, to participate in this program?
we don't give anything.
Okay.
This is a tax credit on their GRT.
I understand, but
So-
how do we determine the amounts to that tax credit? I understand the dynamics of how that will happen at the tax end, but I assume you guys have to certify and verify
We
that,
certify the amount of the
that they
tax
have,
credit, we give it to Rev and Tax, and if the company has to have GRT taxes in order for it to take a credit of. We don't get into that part. That's what Rev and Tax is. We just approve the amount according to the GRAP program. We authorize the 50% tax credit. Whether or not the company has that much or doesn't pay taxes or has a lot, that's for Rev and Tax to deduct from the tax credit.
So you guys, in giving that and getting it authorized at Rev and Tax, how do you determine what that, is there a limit for any company, for example, or no? I mean, I just simply come in, I have 10 apprentices I have in my program, somebody else has 20. That's really how it runs. Is that their initiative versus any type of organized requirement that we need to know more people in this field versus that field? I mean, is it driving itself, or are you guys helping facilitate the drive, but knowing what the demand is, for example? I mean, are you approaching companies if there's an area that there's more workers, skilled workers needed, or is it simply they're coming to you versus you having some organized outreach?
Both.
Okay.
Both. And we work with the companies individually, look at each of the positions and say, this is the ones that are apprenticeable, which ones aren't apprenticeable, which ones that we can, even the ones that are, they may be, there has to be a program in place for them to get the skills and the education, and if that's not available, then of course they can't avail to that. And that's something that we're working with GCC, and we're also exploring customized training programs. Like when we worked with one of the retailers, big retailers, they had a lot of modules already in place through their parent company for training, and that we reviewed and looked at, and we allowed that to become part of their training as far as the educational components. And so that's what being a state apprentice office gives us, the flexibility to try to avail of that. Healthcare is a little bit more challenging. You have to have certain types of training, and that's what the schools, GCC and UOG, would need to have in order for that position to be apprenticeable. If they don't have it, then that position wouldn't be apprenticeable.
And then what's the time frame, I mean, for these apprentices to go through the program? I mean, are they in for a certain period of time and you look at a certain completion to say, yes, you've met the criteria? I mean, I don't know, some of this training may be for, so many months and maybe for a year or two, I don't know, I guess, depending on what.
There's a standard format that USDOL gives us, and each different position, as you can imagine, has a different time component. Like you said, construction is typically a 4-year before you can get a journeyman's certificate.
Sure.
And other ones, security is a lot less.
Sure.
And so it varies depending on the apprenticeable position.
So how do you determine that a company successfully assisted this individual in going through the apprentice program? Because what if I'm in the program and I drop out and I don't complete it? Does the company still get that credit for that year? Or, how do you measure and can you verify how many people they started, how many actually complete the program, or do you have some that are only starting there for a short time and then they're bringing a new crop again? I mean, how do you measure the success of the the actual program for that particular business?
We monitor.
Okay.
We monitor each company in those positions. They turn in the tax credits. They have to justify what they've learned, what they've done, how do they get the tax credit, and how they progress, and if they finish. Not all finish. Some, as anybody, they earn and learn at the same time, and some people move on. But overall, we've had pretty good success.
How much percentage-wise would you say overall from those that actually start the program to actually complete the apprenticeship program and are, get this certification of that skill set?
Anecdotally, we see about an 80% success.
To actually complete the entire program. Well, that's very good.
Yeah, I feel very confident on the success rates anecdotally that I've seen and that we've heard from the businesses. Because remember, the businesses are investing a lot of money. Even though they get a 50% tax credit, they're still investing their trained people to train those people to get them caught up and to become a valuable, skilled workforce in their company. So they're investing too. It's a shared cost.
Do the companies require any service for the time that they're investing in their employees at all? Is there any commitment? If I'm going to invest in you in a 4-year training program, that there's an expectation that you're going to work for that company for that period, or do they just, what do they do if they just bail after a company's made all that investment? That's
like you said, you would hope that a company investing in those employees, like I said, they have a 40% better chance of retention. Just if you take the chance and hire me and invest in me, and that you offer a good workplace, you're going to keep the employees there. And that's just the nature of our workforce. If you have a good workplace and you treat them well, they will stay. If you don't, then they will go. And at this time, there is no way to force them to stay. That's something that we could look at. If that is a problem, we can certainly look into that and talk to some of the employers and see if that is something that would be worth doing.
Well, as Senator Tello had mentioned earlier, I think getting the statistics would be helpful to find out, we've had X amount of individuals have gone through this program or this period of time, and then what is the success rate after, for example, staying with a company or still working in that particular field? I think that would be helpful also to add on to see what the ultimate outcome and what the long-term impact is of these apprenticeship programs. I think that would be good information to have. And
I think we can look into that and see how we can try to tailor it. We track them until they graduate.
Sure,
and then when they graduate, they're hired on full-time. Right. That's where we lose them from there.
But I think that information may be helpful, maybe within a year or 2-year period, to track and see, are these individuals still working in the same company, or still working in this particular, maybe not the same company, or still working in this particular field area? I think it just would be helpful so we know what the long-term benefit is of the investment. I think we would assume that it's a good thing and a positive contribution, but are they staying with those companies? Are they getting on a plane and moving to Las Vegas or working for United? I don't know, but I think it would be helpful so that it sells the project even more and the program even more if we know what the long-term investment is and are they reinvesting back in Guam. That to me is important. I think we all want to see that.
I agree. Let me see what we can try to do.
I appreciate it. I'm sure next round or next year, and you come before us. I think it'd be good to maybe see what you put in place and what data we're able to get feedback on. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Senator.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, Senator Brown. Senator Jesse Lujan.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Again, just kudos again to you folks up there in regards to these businesses prospering and likewise the employees. But one question, Dave, are you guys working with the airport any in regards to, because I know as the Vice Chair of Aviation as well, that I know that companies have been inquiring with the airport in regards to airline-related industries. I know some of the negative feedback they've been getting is, of course, the amount of money that these industries are having to shed out, and of course having only be able to have a 5-year lease in properties for the initial investment. But I know that airlines have been interested in investing, quite a few bucks to be able to have airline-related industries like in training have U.S. trained mechanics out here in Guam. But if we were able to holistically put programs together, again to have an employee pool, things of that nature, to be able to entice them. I know one of the biggest drawbacks in that is, again, the initial investment that they would have to put out, and then not to be able to get, and have a shorter term lease. I mean, we're seeing this in the Port Authority as well, because these are industries that invest hundreds of millions of dollars, into facilities, and again, they like the idea that to be able to have U.S. trained mechanics and what have you, and these are foreign airlines inquiring, but these are part of the things that hopefully that we can put a package together, with yourselves and the airport and maybe with GITA as well, and present something that the legislature can agree upon, and hopefully that be able to entice again companies to invest in Guam. So I'm just wondering if you have a current program working with the airport.
Not the airport itself, but the airlines.
Airlines.
We do have work, but we're limited in the facilities, the equipment, and the training that is locally. But yes, we are working with some of the airlines.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because the inquiries are coming to the airport, and these are airlines, but the biggest negativity in the investment is just the amount of money they have to invest, and the amount of time they'll be able to get on a property lease and all that, right? So if we say, hey, well, we have a pool of employees that you be able to have as well, so if we can package that, pre-package that, and then the legislature look at, again, relook at programs that we can enhance to entice more companies to come into Guam, because we've built out the airport. The runway's long enough already, and hopefully one day soon we'll become a airline cargo hub. So, and I know we've been working hard, and the chair of Aviation is working really hard with this. The Guam Visitors Bureau is working hard to try to do that as well. So, we gotta be on the same page to be able to enhance these companies, because I mean we are again a U.S. destination, very close to Asia, and it's very enticing for these companies. But the negativity of that is, again, the amount of investment versus the amount of time that or the length of the lease. So if we can start working on a holistic package that maybe, again, then the legislature can digest and accept. And it's something that, again, the airport and GIDA can go out and market. So, but anyway, just a comment. But congratulations again. And again, I'm in full support of this bill and, again, permanency of this bill. But thank you very much, Madam Chair.
You're very welcome, Senator Lujan. Madam Speaker?
Thank you. Can you just explain again? So the program is the federal government makes a list of eligible jobs, right? And then, but do they give you money for this program?
U.S. Department of Labor has a registry of positions that are apprenticeable with a template of what they need to do so that we don't have to make it up, so that for all the states to try to follow. And you have to be a state apprenticeship office in order to do that. Guam is designated, the only one in the Pacific other than Hawaii, I believe. So we take that as the template to start, and then we look at the company and work with them from there to try to tailor it to fit their needs. And that makes it worthwhile for them to participate. If we design something that doesn't train their people into a way the certain company does it.
All right, but this is a totally Guam paid benefit or program, right? And so the benefit is that companies who avail can hire employees or apprentices for up to 2 years, it looks like, in certain positions. And the cost that employer pays for wages and for training, those costs can be waived in GRTs. Are there other costs
50%.
that are also apply? Oh, 50% of those
Yeah.
costs, correct. Yeah, are there other costs besides training and wages?
The equipment, safety equipment, what's needed to do the job, depending on what the type of jobs are, can be written off. And also the trainer, what is required from the trainer can also, the times that they are touching the apprentice, working with them, training them, that time can also be written off. Those are the main related training instructor equipment.
Oh,
yeah. So those are the main things that other than their salary.
Okay. And if we can, they can be in an apprenticeship for 2 years, right?
Depending on the position, yes.
Okay. And then what if they get promoted? Can they also be eligible for a apprenticeship in that promoted position as well?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
If they have that position, worked with us to get a training program for that.
Okay. All right. So I just had, I printed the list from the website now, thanks to help your suggestion. And so now I'm able to review in detail the different companies that are availing of this program and how much, in fact, it's so detailed, you can even see the names of the employees, how much they are getting in this apprenticeship or now, are these amounts the 50%, or what are these amounts reflect? It says employee, apprentice, title, and then amount.
That's 50%.
50%? Okay. And would this be for like 1 year period? Oh.
Fiscal year.
Fiscal year. All right. So, for example, the total for duty-free apprenticeships, and these are all for customer service reps, the total is $894,000. And I guess for that one, CEO of GIDA, I just want to ask, so we're giving...
One thing I wanted to point out is that number is a little deceiving because of COVID. A lot of the accounting was delayed, so that was a 3-year catch-up. So you say it wasn't all done for work in 2023. It was for 3 years worth of salaries and benefits. So if you notice, In 2023, it was like 10 million, which is a lot. That wasn't all monies that occurred in 2023. That was because of COVID, and a lot of businesses were shut down. A lot of them had to catch up with their paperwork, filed it in 2023 for 22, 21, and that's why it was realized in 2023.
Okay.
Which is understandable.
So I
during
can't
COVID.
tell for this one, for example, how much of this is for 1 year versus 3.
Well, I think
Okay.
most of them are caught up in 2023.
All right.
And now moving forward, you're going to see more realistically what those numbers are.
So our question for tax credits for the legislature, it's a policy thing, right? We should always be asking ourselves, is it worth it to give a tax credit where we're not going to be receiving GRTs because we want this, or, you know, and that's how we can get it, versus receiving the GRT and taking that money and paying for what we really want, right? And I guess that's the only question I have on these certain things. For example, customer service reps, we're paying just one company. There's others, of course, $894,000. I'm not sure now whether 1 year or 3 years, but let's just say that $1 million, if we took it and put it towards UOG scholarships for nurses instead, right? That's us directing where we want our taxes to go. And a lot of the tax incentive programs, we are very specific as to jobs, or very specific as to category of industry, because we need those and we're trying to make sure we get those. But I guess that's not a question to be answered right now unless we're going to change this program today, and I'm not prepared to do that. So I just want to put that out there. There is no limit as to which categories of jobs that we are going to cover with our tax credits. I guess that's the point I'm making. And there's no limit to it, there's no amount limit, and there's no type of job limit, right, except for your list. So everything on your list is eligible. So there are some others, and I guess maybe the 3 years is going to explain my next question. That is, so one business has an accounting technician and the amount's like over 100,000. Is that a salary? 50% of 50% of salary and training for? There are others. Let me just go through them. There's another one, 122,000, and then there are certified nurse assistants, 256,000. And I'm trying to think. They're not getting paid that much for sure. So their wages, so this might include their training costs. I'm not sure. I just want to get some kind of perspective on this, because it doesn't look right. If they were all going to make that much, we would have a lot.
You're getting into the weeds, and what you're seeing is not only the salary of the person, but also of the journeyman. So like the doctor or the person that's training that person extensively gets 50% of that write-off tied to that person. So that's why you're seeing that increase. And then, like I said, that could be over an extended period of time. So the one thing, I agree what you're saying in certain extents, but you got to remember, every one of those persons are unskilled Guam workers that were hired and are now certified and are in a career. So although we always want to go after the demand, to the healthcare and all those, not every one of our population can be healthcare workers, but a lot of them can be CSRs or technicians or accountants or in auto mechanics and that's what this GRAP program looks. It just doesn't take those who want to be in healthcare. There are plenty of programs to help them get into healthcare, and if they need it and they need financial assistance, there's a lot that are available to them. But to the ones who aren't always in that highest skill, we're helping hundreds and thousands get into job fields that are geared towards that person and to our population who normally wouldn't be hired. So I think I agree with you that we always need to help those that go into healthcare, but we also need to help those who get into other fields, other mechanics, other types of businesses, and get them started into a career path. Not everybody is geared towards healthcare.
Thank you. CEO Mendiola, do you think there's any way we can tweak this so that we can prioritize credits for those companies that we do have higher need for?
Ma'am, I would respectfully say at the policy level, I don't think so beyond, I think once a year that the Department of Labor could evaluate all of the different companies that they grant these tax credits to and set out their priorities for the given year. And in those priorities say these are the priority, well, there's multiple layers, multiple ways I'll answer this question. The first is, back to when it comes to GITA's position on workforce development programs, this is an enticement for off-island development. And so any way, shape, and form that we can maintain a workforce development tax credit or tax incentive program, we are heavily in favor of. That's the first thing. As to the oversight, as to the impact, so earlier your comment was how do we balance how much BPT we're granting abatements on versus how much we're collecting. Historically, 43 million over the course of 13 years is not, to me, material enough to
No, that's
hit
not
at that point
sorry,
in time.
that's not exactly my question. My question is, if we are giving up $1 million in credits for customer service reps training versus $1 million taking it and using it to train more nurses.
Sure.
That's the question.
I think, well, the lens with which I look at the job experience, for someone like myself, I might dismiss the ability the need for formal training to be a customer service person, but for someone who is of a very low socioeconomic background, they really might need formal training that involves a classroom, that involves a mentor, and costs beyond hiring. So a customer service rep, if you're at a company and you're hiring a customer service rep that graduated from Harvest Christian Academy, you might get a vastly different experience than if you hired a customer service rep from
Maybe don't answer that.
another school.
Don't
And so I guess my
So-
thoughts are
see-
just,
see-
so I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't think we can judge the classification of the occupation.
That's not the question either. It's not I'm trying to judge. I agree. There's a whole list of jobs that the federal government has deemed eligible for apprentice programs, meaning those are kind of needed everywhere. Yeah, but I'm just asking you for Guam, and we've tried to do this in so many ways, and I'm just asking you, you don't see a benefit in doing that and tweaking this at all. Like, I would think that we could be more aggressive in directing these dollars or these credits towards the ones that we really need. But it would take you working together with DOL, I would think.
Certainly, I would certainly ask, what I would say, ma'am, is I don't know what the reporting is on this program, and what I would share is that every year there be priorities set forth with regard to what strategic priorities. Because I think the GRAP program, when you're getting a program off the ground, you're largely responsive to who wants to participate, who wants to go through the steps. But this program is a little more mature than that. So maybe going forward, you can tailor it at the agency level where you can give them the flexibility to say, this year we're going to authorize this many apprentices in the healthcare occupation, or this is the amount of money we'd authorize in healthcare versus this much money in these other areas. And then from there, if they report that to you on an annual or biannual basis, then you can then give them feedback about whether or not that's working and fulfilling the need that you think that it needs to fulfill.
Yeah, I understand. I don't think they can do that alone, because for them, all these jobs are equal. But for GITA, I would think that's where that, you've made already these determinations for different programs, including federal programs, as to what, Guam's greatest needs are. And, all right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're very welcome, Speaker. Senator Chris Barnett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd first like to ask about bus drivers. I got a lot of bus driver friends, and with the double sessions, obviously there's a shortage. And I know that they had, I don't know if these were displaced workers who are over at DPW now, but are we in any way entertaining this type of apprenticeship for bus drivers?
Well, bus drivers aren't apprenticeships. What we did was boot camps in order for them to get their license. I forgot, D license or whatever it is. They need to have a certain license. So we put them into work and we put them into training in order for them to get their driver's license. We had 2 cohorts already that we graduated and gave to DPW. So that was more like not apprentice, but more of a boot camp. For a bus driver's license.
Do you have any plans to have another one?
We'll keep doing that as long as the challenge was trying to make sure that we had a bus for them to work with and getting them schematics. We were working with GCC. So yes, we can do more, and I hope to do more because I know there's a need for more.
Right. It's been very engaging discussion that we've heard here this morning, and I think a lot of it is leaning towards, are we getting in my interpretation of the discussion is, are we getting the most bang for our buck, and are we utilizing this program to fill gaps in areas where we're short or we're in demand? And I just have to say, we printed out the information on the website, which I think we should have had before the committee of the whole started, but I'm just trying to make sense of this because it looks to me like you have some companies who are able to avail of very high numbers of apprenticeships, and then you have others that are lower. And just going company to company to kind of echo what the speaker had said, I mean, we get all kinds of agencies coming in here asking for money, right? And times are tough. But when we're subsidizing $1.1 million for 69 apprenticeships at an auto dealership, and we aren't doing that with any other one, I just don't know. It just kind of looks like politics, with all due respect. And so
every one of those positions are jobs.
Right. I know, Dave, but
they will graduate after 2 years. They will stay on and have a job,
but
for continuing.
And I understand that. I understand that. I'm just saying, for me, when we look at the demand, I didn't know there was a demand for auto dealership workers. I know there's a demand for nurses and bus drivers and a lot of these positions that keep coming up. But in looking at this list, being from Guam, I see names on here of employees who have worked at AutoSpot for many years. So I don't know if these companies, if there's a potential for abuse for these companies to keep rolling over this 2-year period, because it is a great program, and these companies, it's a huge benefit for them to have half of these employees subsidized by the government of Guam. But it's difficult for me to justify doing that to the tune of over $1 million when we have students at UOG who are trying to get scholarships when there's so much need across the government, and then these cashiers for duty-free shoppers. I mean, this is a worldwide billion-dollar company, and so I think we do need to rehash this program. I think Speaker's right. I don't think we could do it in this sitting, obviously, but I don't know if there should be a threshold where we kind of, or more criteria where we can be surgical in what we're doing instead of just hooking up people because they're somebody's party. Because I just don't see the rhyme or reason unless you can justify it.
All I can tell you is that every one of those people that are in there were hired, they're skilled, they go through the training program, and then after they graduate, they have jobs. Especially coming out of the COVID, a lot of companies are looking for, they can't find the laborers that are skilled in order to fulfill their jobs. So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like you have this particular car dealership has 69 apprentices. That seems like their whole payroll. I mean, I don't know how many employees they have, but I can't imagine a car dealership has much more than 70 employees. And so when I look at this in the black and white of it, it just seems like abuse or favoritism, and that's something I don't want to condone. And so I think we have to be surgical with this program. I agree with all the previous speakers, and I think when we have the information in front of us, I mean, Citadel Pacific, 62 apprentices, and so you, in your opinion, it's justified?
Yes, and I think if you looked before COVID, you see a lot of the other competitor companies had very high numbers. They've started to mature. Citadel's a little newer in jumping in. So you're going to see a high as they start launching off, and then as they mature, the numbers will go down as they graduate out.
I'm just not comfortable because we all know who the political players are on this island, and when I see a political player in these documents and I see that they're able to get tens, dozens of apprentices versus other companies and other needs that aren't being filled, to me it just raises a whole lot of questions that, again, I don't think we can address in this sitting or in this bill. So nothing further, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Barnett, and for those questions. Thank you very much. Senator Duenas.
Sidus Masi, Madam Chair. Dave, maybe I want to just give you an opportunity to, because it's been an interesting conversation by the previous speakers, and I mean, you don't discriminate, correct? I mean, those companies that are industry specific, if they avail of it, they avail of it. Can you comment on that?
I promote this program vigorously to all companies. I can wholeheartedly tell you there's no politics. I always believe any company that's willing to hire a person and train them up, you still got to invest in them. You get 50% off. My staff run this. They do an excellent job. And I will continue to promote it to all companies, whether they're politically aligned or not. I've never been much for politics in my department, and I think you've seen that in the way I've run the PUA, DUA, and everybody deserves everything that I can provide, a service, and I'll continue to run it that way. And if it looks like some things are politics or not, then it just looks that way. I've never been much for that.
Yeah, Dave, I don't want to use names, but I'm just going to do this. So let's say auto company A, avails of the program to the tune of $500,000 in tax breaks, and auto company B just puts $100,000 worth of tax breaks trainees through. That's you don't drive that. The company availing of the benefit drives it, right?
But I can tell you, if you go to talk to any of the other car dealers, they will all tell you that I'm all in their faces, telling them that they need to avail to this program. And a lot of them are realizing it now, because some of them didn't want to be the first one. You know how it is. But once they see one company do it, then they step in and say, wow, I can do that too. So a lot of the other dealers are getting very aggressive and jumping in and doing this now. And there's no political affiliation. I've been in this island for all my life practically, and I know everybody. So they're all equally treated and with the same vigor that I want them to get to hire our local people.
Yeah, you see, the reason why I have a difference philosophically with this is the fact that trained workforce generates tax revenue.
Yes.
So while we say yes, this abatement seems to be such a giant number, I don't think we're talking about the taxes that those people are paying when they have a good job, buying groceries, having a mortgage, taking care of their families, and paying their income taxes and everything else. I mean, that's coming to the government, and the government could possibly take less if we're not investing and helping these companies invest in the workforce. Then we're also helping these companies sustain themselves and grow, which means they're hiring more employees when they're capable to have the money that they would have otherwise paid in taxes to reinvest in their companies to grow and to give salary increases to their employees. And I agree with what you said. In a workplace, 99% of the time, the employee's decision to stay or leave is how well they're treated and what their station in life is in terms of quality of life and what their needs are. But you're right. I mean, a company will not succeed, and Jerry Roberts will tell you this, a company will not succeed unless they have a culture and a commitment to their employees going forward. Mel, you know, one of the things we contemplated when the discussion of the extending, you know, the opportunities for leases on the cables coming into Guam was the hope, and of course, one of the companies particularly put out a release that, you know, they're asking for the government and for this, you know, opportunity because there is potential of new industries, particularly in tech and in those other areas dealing with internet-based and the like, a new industry for Guam. Have you been able to contemplate marketing this along with that as well, that these big companies, the Googles and the others that might look at Guam, they come here and they say, man, you know, I can go to a place where I'm going to get a great tax break on, you know, developing the workforce within this island of Guam. Have you had a chance to work with your team on marketing that?
Yes, sir. So when GITA goes out and markets the incentives to coming to the island of Guam, we look relative to our peers, what's everyone else doing as well. And so as an example, right now in the state of Texas, they're giving workforce incentive programs, targeted workforce incentive programs in technology. They're also giving very long leases, and they're also giving away basically free land. And all the state level taxes are being abated or rebated, right? Now that's not even an apples to apples comparison. We're never going to give away free land, right? That's never going to happen. But we do try to go out there with something competitive. There are nuances to all of these tax credit programs that you have to understand. A QC recipient cannot also be a GRAP recipient. Okay, so if we're plugging a QC, if we're promoting the qualifying certificate program, we're not also we're introducing the concept of both, but we also try to make the distinction that eligibility for one may negate receiving one may negate receiving another. So currently the QC holder in the hospitality industry is Subaki Hotel. Subaki would not also be able to do GRAP. Okay. And so we think a workforce development QC in telecommunications, whether it's specific and called out, or whether it's a blanketed program that does all workforce development types of, that's a great incentive for an investor to make its way to our island. I think we need it to remain competitive among other states, and that's exactly what all states are doing right now. They're competing for dollars from Taiwan, from Korea, from Japan, and from other states, right? And so incentivizing the Googles to come to Guam, they may not be turned on by our QC, but they might be turned on by the GRAP program, and vice versa. It really just depends.
Yeah, I know Senator Lujan was mentioning that because when we were in Taiwan by invitation of the government, we did find out that there is interest and his work at the airport in, you know, possibly developing in the future aircraft, you know, maintenance and the like here. And of course, they're trying to start up once again their direct flights with Taiwan, and that's kind of a, you know, sort of a synergy. So this is another area where, of course, much like the shipyard and its expansion, where we can create good jobs. So once again, thanks a lot for what you're doing, and I think that, you know, we cannot ever stop trying to move forward to create jobs that are outside of just the service industry. I mean, we've got to get more tech jobs into Guam, and I just see this as the driver. I mean, there's nothing bigger to a company thinking about taking a risk you know, in a place way out in the middle of the Pacific, you know, when they can do it somewhere else that's a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more predictable than having these types of incentives. So once again, thank you for your work, all of you, and I have formally put in my request and received a favorable consideration to be a co-sponsor to this bill. So thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Minority Leader, Senator Blas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, to the panel again, once again, thank you very much. Mr. De La Sola, at this juncture, what's probably your biggest challenge with regard to this program?
Trying to streamline the companies to get them on board as quickly as possible.
Okay.
It's very labor intensive for them to do all the paperwork, to look at each of the individual occupations that they have, design a program, and get it in a quick manner. Takes a couple months. And the good thing is the more that we do, the more positions that we already have standardized. So if another auto company comes in and wants similar types of jobs, we already have it fairly customized for them so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel of each of those positions. And as more similar companies come in, we already have tailored occupations designed for those types of businesses. So that, you know, we're adding on another person so that we can help grow it. This is expanding very quickly, and so we're working to get the process to be done as quickly as possible, because there is a lot of several months for a company to get from interest to actually get them on.
Okay, so, you know, that's the challenge now.
That's the challenge I'm taking.
That's the challenge. Well, I want to separate this because sometimes it can be very, you can interchange the language or the meaning in this thing. That's the challenge. What are your limitations to the program?
What am I?
The limitation.
I guess the limitations is that some of these small companies don't have the expertise in-house to be able to track, to properly document the tax credits. So that is a challenge, because I'd like to get it away, not only for the middle to big businesses, but also for the smaller businesses, for the ones or two you know, occupations that they may require, but they don't. You know, when you're taking tax credits, we have to be very detailed and make sure that we follow a lot of information, and that can be labor intensive to a small business.
Okay, and I think that granted that this legislation is to extend the program, I think that in this type process, as we move forward, we want to be able to address, again, the challenges and the limitations of the program, so that in the extension of the program, we can enhance the program, we can grow the program. And
I think Navis is doing an excellent job starting to present templates, because before companies had to just do it on their own, but now there's a template for you to how to track the hours, how to take the tax credits. And as we start developing more and more of those standardized approaches for the companies, it becomes less expertise required and labor intensive for them. They're not reinventing the wheel, but they're just following a certain format. And we'll continually mature that and grow that to make it as easy as possible. And there may be other ways we can do it. As we grow, maybe the department, we can offer more services, but that is what I'm looking at as our biggest challenge.
Okay, and lastly, going back to you, Mr. Logan. Don't worry, I think I'm the only one who's going to ask you the question, so don't worry about it. Do we track, you know, because, you know, every year we've got to be able to manage the finances of the government. But how are we in being able to track the tax credits and how it's going to affect the revenues that we have in as far as what revenues we gain within the government and what revenues we have to set aside because of a tax credit.
I'm not sure if this is exactly what you're asking, but as we discussed earlier, right? These businesses, they pretty much take the credits after they're issued and when they choose to. It's not a set. So what we do track is the amount of credits that are actually taken and allowed at revenue tax. That's how we track.
Okay, so that's exactly the question. Okay, the answer. So there is that method, and we're fairly confident we're able to keep on top of that.
Yes.
See, because at a point in time, as we grow this, okay,
right,
obviously we're going to be giving more credit, and more credit basically means less revenue, and there's got to be a balance, okay, and making sure that we're not giving away the farm, so we can grow the chickens, okay. So we just want to make sure that we save the farm, okay. So that's one of the things I want to be assured of and everything. But again, congratulations. Thank you very much. Madam Chair, thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Minority Leader, Senator Blas, Frank Blas. Senator Dwayne Nicholas, do you have any questions?
No, I absolutely love this bill, and I have no problems with it. It's good for business, good for the fostering good talent, and good for our society. And I applaud the author. She's so wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Nicholas. Senator Kanata? None. Senator Fisher is not there. And now Senator San Augustine, the chair of the oversight.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a simple question for Dave. Is there any other state that offers this break that we're doing? We offer this incentive. We've been doing this for years.
Yes, there are other states that when I asked, that are offering similar types of tax incentives. Now, I didn't get into specifics or how they're doing it, but I did ask that to an apprentice person over at USDOL, are we the only one doing something like this? And he said, no, we're not. I didn't get specifics, so if you'd like to, I can.
Okay, well, if you can get that, just send us a copy. I'm just curious to know.
Okay.
But I'm in support of the bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're very welcome, Mr. Chair. Okay, since we have exhausted the second round, I'm going to offer the closing remarks to Senator Shelton, the author of the legislation.
Thank you very much, and again, thank you to the panel for your time today, the discussion about the program. And I want to thank the companies that also provided their support for this bill during the hearing, and extend our gratitude as well to the Guam Community College, President Mary Okada, who brought this need for an extension to our attention several months ago with the impending termination next year. I also want to especially thank the Department of Labor and your team for carrying out this program and doing all of the work behind the scenes, and Gita and the Department of Revenue and Taxation, as well as all of the co-sponsors who see the need for this assistance to our economy, to our working people, and to our business community. And I want to move at this time to add co-sponsors to the bill, Senator Fisher and Senator Duenas.
There's been a motion to add co-sponsors. Are there any objections? No objections, so ordered.
And Madam Chair, if we can take a brief recess, I have a amendment loading to the drive.
Oh, yeah, amendment to the, okay. So we're going to take just a short recess.
Thank you.
Okay. We're back from recess. I'm going to, at this time, excuse the panel that are here today, and thank you for your time, and I wish you a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you and your family and loved ones. Enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Senators. I appreciate it very much.
Okay, we're back to recess. . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . We're back from recess. It is loading. At this time, though, because of time, I'm going to have Senator Shelton to go ahead and read your amendment, and while they're loading it onto the drive. Okay?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. This is a very simple amendment that adds a notwithstanding clause to the bill. So it reads in Section 2, letter A, before the beginning of the paragraph, notwithstanding any other provision of law, and then again in Section B of the bill, notwithstanding any other provision of law.
Okay, does anyone have any questions on that amendment? Does anybody need a hard copy of that amendment? Okay, that being said, is there any objection to this amendment? No objections? Okay, so ordered. Okay, Madam Secretary, do you want to close? Or?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you, I don't know if you ruled on my last amendment to add co-sponsors. Thank you very much. And again, just thank you to everyone for their support for this bill, for our working people and our business community. Thank you.
Okay. So,
and I move now at this time, Madam Chair, to I move that Bill number 120-37 COR, as amended in the Committee of the Whole, with the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, to be placed on the third reading file.
There has been a motion to move to the third reading file. Is there any objection? No objection, so ordered.
And Madam Speaker, I also move to rise from the Committee of the Whole with the recommendation that Bill number 120-37 COR, as amended in the Committee of the Whole, to rise.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, I'm going to recognize Senator Chairman, Senator Augustine.
Before we rise, I'd like to first make a motion that we set Bill 107 set aside.
Okay, so Senator Shelton, if I may, actually, take care of his motion first. So Senator Augustine.
I withdraw my motion.
Okay, thank you so much. Any objections of the withdrawal of her motion? So we can do this in order? None? Okay. Senator Augustine made a motion to set aside his bill 107-37. Is there any objections? There's no objections, so orders. Senator Amanda Shelton, you can now move your bill to the third reading file.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair. I move to rise from the Committee of the Whole with the recommendation that Bill number 120-37, as amended in the Committee of the Whole, be placed in the third reading file.
Okay. Is there any objection to that motion? There is no objection, so ordered. We are now going to recess, and we will be back at 2 p.m. later today to address one more bill, and this is the body camera bill, and that will be all for the day. So please, if we can all be here on time at 2 o'clock, appreciate it, and we'll see you then. We are in recess until 2.